Specialized has just released a brand new bike that is slacker, longer, and a hell of a lot lighter than the Enduro from just 5 years ago. No, it's not some fancy all-mountain bike, not a trail bike. This is the brand new Epic 8. As I mentioned in the opening, the geometry of the Epic has been pushed well beyond average XC numbers and are getting close to modern trail bikes at this point. We've got 5 sizes available in the range, with reaches ranging from 390 mil on the extra small all the way up to 500 on the extra large. That's what I've been riding right here. There are a few geometry points worth highlighting, and I'm gonna get into them right now. Those long reach numbers mean the cockpit of the new Epic is gonna be quite roomy compared to some traditional XC bikes, and the seat tube angle has been ratcheted up quite a bit to accommodate for that increased reach. The seat angle changes a bit depending on the frame size, but pretty much all of them fall within a degree of 76 degrees, meaning this is a pretty steep seat angle for any XC-ish short travel bike out there, and is starting to approach, again, like the numbers we're seeing on trail bikes. The only geometry number on the Epic that doesn't change per size is the rear center length. So every bike in the range is gonna have a 435 mil chainstay. Just to recap and to highlight just how far things have progressed, the changes from the prior Epic Evo to the current Epic are as such. The head angle is 0.7 degrees slacker. The seat angle is 1.5 degrees steeper. The reach is 15 mil longer per size, and the bottom bracket is 8 mil lower. All of that means that the new Epic is more capable than the old Epic Evo, which is really cool. It means XC bikes are in the future now. It's sick. Specialized wasn't just satisfied pushing the geometry numbers forward, they also wanted to make sure the kinematics matched the capability of that geometry. The current Epic, new Epic, is 20% more efficient under pedaling than the outgoing model. That's based on a bunch of lab testing they did on that bike, on the new bike. They even benchmarked some competitors out there. The new bike also has 12% more bump absorption than the old bike. That may sound like a number pulled out of thin air, and it might just be, but Specialized has a whole ride dynamics team that focuses on that sort of stuff. So I do believe that that number was achieved by science. I just don't know that I've ever thought about the percent gains in bump absorption on a bike before. Suffice to say though, it does handle really nicely and the suspension does work really well. Controlling the suspension on this bike isn't a completely passive activity. While they did make sure to make the pedaling characteristics really capable without any sort of assist, the bikes do all ship with 3-position RockShox suspension, meaning on everything except the S-Works bikes, you've got one of those grip shift 3-position doohickeys that allows you to go between the lock mode, the middle mode, and the open mode, meaning you can change the kinematics of the bike to suit wherever you are on trail and what kind of effort you're putting out. As alluded to, that S-Works model does not have the 3-position twist guy. It has the brand new flight attendant system. We'll start with the lock mode. It's simple, it's locked. Your bike is gonna feel rigid. It's pretty much meant for like road sprints, paved climbs, anything where you want like the most direct power transfer possible. Maybe if you're at like a pump track and you want like a real stiff, high seat post bike. The next mode is equally simple. It's the open mode. That's just meant to be the most supple and forgiving suspension possible. The kinematics of this bike are quite linear, and the shock is a very large bottom out bumper. So you're gonna be moving through travel a lot. Feels great, like maybe more than 120 millimeters even. The third mode is the one between those two, and that's where things get a little more interesting. Specialized calls this the magic middle. Essentially, it's a similar tune to what RockShox uses stock on their middle position pedal mode, but they've changed the tune of that mode a little bit so that you have let's call it a firmer nose that you're pedaling on. So there's gonna be a firm suspension feel that blows off, and then you're into like a linear digressive tune. So the wheel will move out of the way on any bumps bigger than pedaling forces. The new frame is 76 grams lighter than the outgoing, and they've added a swap box. And not just any swap box, this is swap box 4.0. It's the nicest they've ever made, for sure. It's got a huge opening still, a really nice action that keeps the whole thing very secure feeling. The waterproofing is great. I still think this is like the best in-frame storage approach I've seen. There are two frame options available. There's the S-Works 12M frame and then the regular 11M frame. Those M numbers mean lightness of layup, essentially, but the S-Works bike is optimized for the flight attendant suspension and the transmission drivetrain, so there is no cable routing on the bike. It's just brakes, and that's it. It has like one little hole right there that your rear brake goes into that doesn't interact with anything except the top bearing of the headset, so it's like quite elegant in the scheme of headset routing. Again, that's only on the S-Works frame, and it's meant to just like lighten everything up, shave as much weight as possible off the bike. That bike also has titanium shock hardware and a carbon shock yoke. So just shaving as much weight as possible and keeping things racy. This isn't just about the XC race bike though. Specialized is releasing an Evo version of the Epic alongside the XC race frame. Both bikes use the exact same frame. The difference just comes down to the spec. It's got a different shock, a different fork, more capable brakes, and bigger tires. The fork travel bumps up from 120 to 130, which slackens the head angle out to 65.5 degrees, and the seat angle gets slackened out to 75 degrees. There's definitely some compromises with the Evo frame, I think. This feels like a release around the Epic, but the Evo is available for those of you who want something a bit more trail focused, built on the really efficient chassis. We're gonna talk about the climbing of the new Epic 8. Unsurprisingly, this thing climbs amazingly well. It is super light, super efficient, and really wants to go uphill quick. That is all without the lockouts involved. I think with the lockout, with the like 3-position RockShox suspension, this bike feels like one of the more efficient and capable climbing bikes out there. You know, it's an XC bike, so the feeling is definitely just like momentum and power going through the wheels. It's not like the stickiest climbing bike out there, but with the suspension open, you do get a decent bit of traction at the wheel. I think that magic middle position is gonna be where people spend like 80% of their rides if it's climbing focused, because it has a nice firm pedaling feel, but then it breaks through on chunkier climbs, allowing you to kind of like recover back to a optimal pedaling position. It's one of those bikes that like I just have gone on rides just to do hard climbs and like pedal as hard as I can up stuff because it's fun. There is some small shameful part of myself that wants to like hunt for Strava KOMs, and this is an excellent bike for doing that, though I try to avoid that part of myself. Perhaps it's been coming out a little bit more with this bike, and that's okay. Much like the climbing characteristics on the Epic, the descending ones are just as impressive. I've been kind of blown away by how well this bike goes downhill. You're never convinced that you're not on a cross-country bike. Like, there's always that sharpness, but it's super capable, helped mostly by the geometry numbers and by a pretty capable feeling suspension. The rear wheel does get out of the way on successive hits. You know, there's feedback to the feet, but nothing crazy. I think compared to a lot of other XC bikes I've ridden recently, it is definitely the smoothest. I've been riding gnarly trails that I'm familiar with and feeling safe on this bike. It's exciting for sure, but you can definitely get down some pretty tech sections of trail. I think for like the modern race course that has more technical features in it, generally more like trail-ish riding than your average like flat track paved course, this is gonna be a great bike for a lot of people. I'm obviously coming at it from more of a trail bike lens, but for me, this is like the ideal cross-country geometry. I don't think I'd want anything much more conservative than this. We're gonna wrap things up here. First, we'll start with the pros. Pro number 1, this is the most capable cross-country bike I have ridden to date. Pro number 2, it's got in-frame storage, a simple frame layout, and it's super light. Pro number 3, it is very fast on dirt, pedals really nicely, just a well-rounded mountain bike beyond being an XC race bike. Not all bikes are without their shortcomings though, so we'll talk about some cons. Con number 1 for me is gonna be the kind of limited high-end sizing. This is the biggest bike they make. I'm 6'3", which is fairly tall, but there are a lot of people bigger than me who will want a longer bike, and they do not offer that. So I think for the bigger riders out there, you might run into some sizing issues. Along the sizing lines, it also lacks any sort of size-specific chainstay length. Everything from the smallest to the biggest bike has the same rear center, and I think that would have been a cool thing to see. I know that some people think that's a bit of a fad, but to me, it does help balance the handling of a bike, and I think there are situations where the very long reach and the very short rear end kind of get out of balance with each other. Verdict, who's this bike for? Me, I want it. This is a really good bike. I've been lucky enough to ride the Epic for the past few months, and I've come away super impressed. It feels sharp and focused and race oriented, but it does not feel exclusive to racing. I think some XC bikes we ride kind of start to fall apart when you push them into more trail bike realms, and this definitely holds its own. The suspension works great, the geometry is excellent, the build kits are quite good. I think the RockShox 3-position suspension on this bike works really, really nicely, and there aren't any builds I would be unhappy to ride. If you want to know more about the brand new Epic, go check out my full write-up on pinkbike.com. I have got all of the information there with all the build kits, all the options. Be sure to let us know what you think about the new Epic. Go in the comments, let us know, is this geometry too extreme for you? Do you think it's beyond what racers need, or is it just right? Subscribe, and there will be more information coming your way on the YouTube. Bug that keeps crawling around on my head. There it is. All right.